Hello, and welcome to our first online lecture for world history. This is how it's going to work. You should have picked up a worksheet labeled Lecture 1 from the table when you walked in. Anytime that there's a new lecture or activity that will be talked about or used in this class, you'll find it on that table ready for you to pick up when you get there. This particular one is called Lecture 1. The blanks that are on Lecture 1 will correspond to the information that you will find on the notes and information I'm going to present here. There are times where I might add information that is not mentioned in the presentation or in the notes. You are still responsible for knowing it. Please make sure that you are taking the time to listen to the lecture, not simply just writing it down. There's a lot of other valuable information that I talk about, but not listed. Additionally, please make sure you put away all the distractions. This would include your cell phones or smartphones, Xbox, PlayStation, television, MP3 player, whatever. Put this stuff away. These things will slow you down and prevent you from getting all the information. Also, I encourage you to use the pause button if you need to. At the end of every slide, I try to put in an automatic pause so that you can get all the information down that was on the slide. But if I forget to add one, please feel free to use that pause button. Finally, if there was anything you missed or didn't understand from the lecture, please feel free to review it again or simply ask me. That's what I'm here for. So now that we got all this basic information down, let's get started on our first lecture, which we will be talking about where humans came from, how they moved around, and the beginning of agriculture. So let's get started. We always start out a new lecture with a part that I call setting the stage. This simply is giving us a little bit of background information prior to getting into the details of the notes. Today, we're going to look at a few terms and definitions as we set the stage. So, setting the stage, we are looking at the answer to one simple question. Who are we? Well, maybe that isn't such an easy question after all. Maybe we have to put some perspective into it, or ask some follow-up questions like, where did we as humans come from? Okay, there's a lot of information, a lot of way to understand or question those three words. Who are we? So let's take a look at what we've come up with in setting the stage, giving us a little background. Evidence suggests that we as humans could be much older than originally had been thought. Or in order for us to find out this information about the past, scientists use artifacts to search for clues in order to answer these questions. Artifacts simply are human-made objects, like tools and jewelry, that help us better understand the people that used them. Using artifacts helps scientists understand how people lived a long time ago, whether or not they used forks or spoons, had dolls, what kinds of weapons that were used. All these things help tell us what life might have been like back in the day. Back in the earliest human times, there was no type of documentation of writing things down of what life might have been like. This was the period of time known as prehistory. This general term typically leaves more questions than it answers. Simply put, prehistory is the time before the invention of writing. Because of the lack of writing, archaeologists, who are those people that study the past, use artifacts to get an idea of what it might have been like to live millions of years ago. The important thing to know about studying the past is that the story is not complete, and there are many questions yet to still be answered. Now, when we look into the beginning of history of humans, there are two prevailing ideas. The first idea is that of creation, that some higher power had put humans here on Earth. The second theory is evolution, or that the theory that humans evolved or developed from other beings over a long period of time. I'm not here to tell you which one is right or which one is wrong. What I am here to do is to tell you what science has found and been able to discover based upon artifacts and other known facts. Whether you believe in creationism or evolutionism, I'm really not the person to ask in that regard, or much less talk about. I will simply just tell you the different beliefs of evolution and the different beliefs of creation and let you decide for yourself. So, with that in mind, scientists have found some very interesting evidence in Africa. Anthropologists, who are people who study culture, and paleontologists, who are people that study fossils, attempt to use artifacts and fossils to understand early human culture. Culture is simply a people's way of life, or their unique way of life. How the way that they live differs from others. These differences usually are in their values, attitudes, beliefs, and customs. Together, these four intricate pieces make up a person's or a group's culture. So, let's talk about Lucy. Lucy? Who's Lucy? Well, now that we have some background information, let's look at what scientists have found. In 1974, scientists made a remarkable find in Ethiopia. They came across an almost complete skeleton, and her name was Lucy. What made this remarkable find was that it was an unusually complete skeleton of a female hominid. Hominid refers to a being that was able to walk upright on two legs. So whenever you hear that word hominid, think of some human-type being that walks on two legs. The discovery was made by Donald Johansen and his team in 1974 in Africa. This skeleton was named Lucy after the Beatles song Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. This skeleton was dated to be about 3.5 million years old. That means that whomever this female was, she was able to walk upright on two legs 3.5 million years ago. This was a major find. Class, meet Lucy, or at least what's left of her when they found her. They were able to determine it was female based upon her pelvis bones that were found, or the remains of her pelvis bones that were found. Simply her pelvis bones or her hip bones. Men and women tend to have different size and density of hip bones than one another, so that's how they were kind of able to determine that Lucy, or this artifact, was actually female. Another amazing find that was not terribly far from Lucy was a set of ancient footprints known as the Laetoli footprints. What makes a set of footprints interesting is that they were made of two hominids and that they've been preserved in volcanic ash in the area of present-day Tanzania, Africa, the central part of Africa, or central eastern part of Africa. This discovery was made by an anthropologist, Mary Leakey, in 1978. Now, why should we care about a bunch of footprints, you ask? Well, these footprints were dated to be about 3.6 million years old. To visualize, that's 3,600,000 years ago. Okay, that's a big number. For the record, Christians believe that humans have only been around for 6,000 years. According to Archbishop James Ussher in 1658 and Dr. Floyd Nolan James in 1996. So the religion is certainly a lot different than what science has told us. And if you look really closely, you can see that this image here is actually a Google picture that they put up on the Google site, recognizing this find by Mary Leakey in 1978. You can actually kind of see the word Google in that picture if you look really close, for those of you that are paying attention. Here's a scaled cast or mold of the Laetoli footprints. Based upon the evidence, these hominids were bipedal, which means they walked on two legs. There is also evidence that suggests that one of the two pairs had stopped, turned around briefly to look behind, before continuing on walking. What they were looking at is uncertain, but it does create more questions.